You know, I know many people can't take people like the young. I know people sometimes take the people like the Young Turks seriously, or they get a kick out of watching the Young Turks. Well, it seems that even though they talk about other news items that other news stations and news shows and headline shows talk about and sometimes don't talk about, I was looking at one of the things and they were talking about this movie that came out. It's been out at least since May, and made its U.S. debut at a film festival in Colorado. And one of the words in the title is blue, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But what they were talking about was something that kind of surprised me because I looked at it on the headline deal, and I'm thinking, are you serious? I mean, I know of some mainstream movies that have done these kind of scenes, but they've only done them for like a short amount of time. Not all the time, just a short amount of time. But to do it for as long as as they described it was, it's like you're kidding me. You know. I mean, I know people complain sometimes with people like myself and Schleg Daddy and people like me and Schleg Daddy and you know like I said, mainly when people like me, me and Jeff Shiegel and Pinky over at Renegades of Wrestling and stuff like that. And even like maybe Laura, as well. I understand people kind of complain sometimes when we do long videos. We do long extended videos that go beyond 10 minutes, or if not, clock in at 10 minutes. But all that is talking. And sometimes with certain shows, animated shows and stuff, you have about 10 to 11 minutes worth. Sometimes with certain episodes will be split into two 11-minute cartoons. And like I said, and like I said, they'll be split into two 11-minute cartoons sometimes with the episodes. And and like I said, both and what I'm saying, what I'm saying is that basically these episodes that have these 11-minute cartoons, at least in the span of the 10 to 11 minutes, you have a lot more going on than just one thing. Even in the old Looney Tune and Disney shorts that ran for about 7 minutes, you would have things going on for a long time. You'd have a lot going on, just like that, instead of just one thing. But basically, despite the movie getting the movie getting praised and winning awards at other film festivals and stuff, it seems that even though it's getting some positive feedback, it gets negative feedback as well. You see, the director, basically, according to what people saw on the film on screen, as well as what the actresses that starred in that portrayed the two main characters in the movie had said, basically the things that I mentioned, like Looney Tunes and Disney having the old 7-minute shorts, or sometimes nowadays, or even in the past, you have an animated show that sometimes will have an episode separated with two separate cartoons, like let's say Phineas and Ferb at times, or you know, Phineas and Ferb, or Adventures of Gumball, or whatever, or even Teen Titans Go, whatever you want to say. They will have stuff like that. They will have stuff like that, and again, like I said, you have a lot, and again, you have a lot more going on in those 7 to 10 minutes than basically what people say was happening here. Because what you had here for 10 minutes was perhaps, as some people put it, perhaps if not the longest lesbian sex scene in history. Okay. Basically, the two actresses, who obviously were not lesbians, were told by the director. I'll provide a link down to the article so you guys can read them yourself. But were just told by the director to, make it feel real, like not rehearsed or anything, but make it feel real. Something like like you're doing it for real. So. Yeah, apparently, the actresses, that's what they did, and they did that over the span of 10 days. That one 10-minute scene. Well, they did, I guess, other scenes as well that build up to it. But for that 10-minute scene, it was like they spent days on it, And again, the actresses, from what we could tell, were not lesbian. Both actresses did not feel comfortable about it, obviously. And, both actresses, they said, hey, the guy's a genius, but we're just not going to work with him again, ever, because of how too demanding he is, of how too demanding and abusive he can be. But, yeah, that's what they said. It's like, we don't want to, it's like, one of the actresses, they said, the guy's a genius, but he's tortured. In other words, he's a tortured genius. That's how they looked at it. He's a genius. He's a genius of what he does, but he's tortured. Like, basically what they're saying is there's a side of him that he uses that genius at times in filmmaking to basically bring out bring out that tortured side of his and make it a reality in some ways. So, yeah, they say he's a genius, but one says he's a genius and he's a tortured genius. Basically, he's tortured. In other words, like I said, he's basically the kind of genius that takes his filmmaking, takes advantage of it, and says, hey, I'm going to expel, or I'm going to showcase my torturedness, my fantasies right here on screen. And the author of the novel in which it's based off of, she didn't like it. She basically flat out said that what he did with this 10-minute scene was just turn it into 10 minutes of porn. That's all he did. And it made her feel ill. In other words, he took essentially what's supposed to be like a subtle love scene that got built up to, I guess, or something, and basically turned it into 10 minutes of porn. That's what she looked at. And even the host, the main anchor on Young Turks said, hey, he said something along the lines of, hey, this guy is, I'll provide a link down below so you guys can see that too, what he had to say, but basically he says that there's no excuse. That this guy basically, I guess in a sense, wanted to showcase his fantasy if you will, in front of the world. Basically, there was no excuse, and then all this guy's doing is getting off on this, and hoping that other people get off on it as well. Or something like that. Again, I'll provide a link to that. But I can understand I can understand where everybody's coming from with this, where the actresses, where the author, and mainly where the main anchor over at Young Turks is coming from this, as well as some of the people at some of the articles that you can find about it on Google. I can understand where they're all coming from with this. Because from what I have heard and seen on occasions, when you're doing a lesbian scene, even if it's in mainstream media, the lesbian scene has to be toned down. I mean, yeah, you can have both ladies naked if you have to, but it's got to be toned down to the point. It's got to be toned down to the point that, like I said, it's got to be toned down to the point it's got to be toned down to the point that it's not graphic. Now, some people say, well, they did a movie for HBO earlier this year that had the opposite gender in a graphic sex situation, and yeah, that's true. But here's the thing: even if it's graphic, even if it's a sex scene, female on female, male on female, or even male on male, if you will, which I'm totally against. I'm totally against it. Male on male. Ugh. No offense, so. It's just not my cup of tea. It's just not my cup of tea. But anyway, what they do is not as graphic. I mean, okay, it is graphic, but it doesn't go for as long as what they said this did. It's only a few minutes, and that's it. And there have been movies that, like Jennifer's Body, that's kind of gone, not as graphic, but it's kind of gone in that direction. It was only a few minutes. There was another mainstream movie, I can't think of it, came out a couple years ago. And you had both women naked and having lesbian sex, but it wasn't as graphic. It wasn't very graphic. It only lasted for a few minutes, at most. Even Blood Rain 4, from what I understand, one of the Blood Rain movies had a lesbian scene with the main character, and it only lasted for a few moments, or for a few minutes, and that's it. I mean, from what I understand, even the common adult film, like what they show sometimes on Cinemax after dark, or on after hours Showtime, or wherever, that even those scenes, lesbian, straight up, if you will, lesbians or straight, don't last too long. They're only for a few moments, only for a few minutes, and that's it. They don't last that long, from what I understand. And to me, it's like, that I can understand. That everybody that's talked about this through articles recently on the Young Turks and all that, they can understand that too. So why can't this director? So why couldn't this director understand that? Does he not understand that the author did not originally intend for this kind of stuff to be displayed? Could he not understand that? Is what the main anchor over at Young Turks said true? Did this guy just do this? This director just do this because he gets a kick out of it? Because it makes a fantasy of his become a reality? What is it? Honestly, I totally get what everybody that's throw negativity at this scene, and not only how it was showcased, but at the length that it was showcased, 10 minutes. I can totally understand where they're coming from. So if I'm the author of this book, If I'm the author of this book, even despite the movie adaptation getting critical acclaim and winning numerous awards, if I want this to be if I want to have a proper adaptation made for a movie, I come to America, or I go to Canada, or heck, I go to a country that I know is not going to disgrace. Well, not a country, but I basically get a director, mainly an American or Canadian director, whatever you want to call it, that I know is not going to disgrace my original vision. That's not going, they will probably say, okay, we're going to have various scenes in here, various lesbian sex scenes, but it's not going to be graphic. It's just going to be like fondling and all that kind of stuff. But do it to the point where it's appropriate, respectful, and decent. Not, as people have been pointing at, overly graphic and basically running for 10 minutes in length. So, and that if you're going to go with graphic lesbian sex even for a few moments, make sure you get two women that either are lesbians or bisexual. That's how you look at it. But again, I totally understand where these people are coming from, because even it surprises me. It surprises me, that something could go that long. So, that's just my take on it. You guys let me know what you guys think down below. Video response if you like. Comment if you like. And I'll talk to y'all later.